Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's live reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are going to begin the Canto 2, Mysteries of Creation. And we are going to begin with the introduction. Also, happy Makar Sankranti, everyone. So let's begin. The introduction. Mysteries of Creation primarily addresses the question of how to stop suffering and attain permanent happiness. It approaches these subjects from a variety of perspectives: logical, scientific, philosophical, ritualistic, mystical, and theistic. It is a retelling of the second canto of the Vedic classic Srimad Bhagavatam, the beautiful science of God. This ancient Sanskrit text describes the cosmic creative energies, their origin, and how they develop and interact to manifest the universe. Not only is the question, how does creation take place, answered in detail, but Mysteries of Creation also explains why the creation happens. The apparent conundrum of why does a good God create a universe where so much suffering exists is also addressed, as well as many other questions fundamental to the human search for knowledge and happiness. Yogis will also find this book of interest, as the Ashtanga Yoga process is clearly delineated here. Mysteries of Creation presents the enigmatic and codified teachings of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in a fluid and simplified style for all grades of readers. As in our retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam's first canto, the sages of Naimisharanya, we have dramatized the text to help the reader visualize both the context and content of this epic treatise. And we have again endeavored to adhere to the teachings of the great saint and scholar, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We have provided references to chapter and verse throughout the book to enable the reader to cross-reference with Srila Prabhupada's authoritative translations and commentaries. We have also once more borrowed insights from another prominent Bhagavatam commentator, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Mysteries of Creation starts with King Parikshit asking a simple question. What should a person do when approaching death? It can seem surprising why he subsequently goes on to ask many wide-ranging and detailed questions on cosmology, yoga, and theology. Srila Prabhupada explains that Parikshit is asking such questions for the benefit of other seekers of truth who have an interest in these topics, to help the reader better understand the various disciplines which these seekers followed. I will repeat. It's very prominent line here. Parikshit is asking such question, Srila Prabhupada explains, for the benefit of other seekers of truth who have an interest in these topics, to help the reader better understand the various disciplines which these seekers followed. We have written a prologue in which we demonstrate their views. Appendix 1 also gives further clarification in this regard. Many of the misconceptions about the nature of reality and the pursuit of happiness widely prevalent then still exist today. Thus, we are sure that the modern seeker of truth will find Mysteries of Creation a valuable and pertinent resource. We owe a special debt of gratitude to the contemporary scholar of the Bhagavatam, His Grace Suhotradas Tapovanachari, whose scholarly explanation of the 6 Vedic schools of philosophical thought greatly helped us. We have added a number of appendices in which we have further explanations of complex topics. In Appendix 7, we provide a table which shows how many layers of conversations within the Bhagavatam sit within each other. There are also extensive notes for those readers who may wish to use this book as a starting point for further research. We have largely adhered to the structure of the original second canto to the point of keeping the same chapter titles. However, to make the text easier to follow, we have taken the liberty to restructure the last 3 chapters of the book. In the original second canto, chapter 8 is largely comprised of questions which are then answered in chapters 9 and 10, as well as in the cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have reorganized these last 3 chapters, placing the answers found in this second canto immediately after their respective questions. Where the answers are not in this canto, we have given suggestions in our notes where in later cantos they can be found. It is said that the truth will set us free. It is our ardent hope that the profound knowledge in this book will help the reader attain freedom from suffering and progress on the journey to enduring happiness. Srila Prabhupada wanted his students to write and make the Bhagavatam's teachings more readily accessible, and we have tried our best to fulfill that desire. We hope Mysteries of Creation will inspire the reader to study his purports on Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2 and thus derive the highest benefit. Everything is there in our book, so reproduce what I have taught in your own language. That's a quote by Srila Prabhupada in a letter dated 1st of May 1972. We pray he will be pleased with this humble effort. Om Tat Sat. Now let's move to the prologue of this book. In a vast grove surrounded by tall peepal trees sat 60,000 sages. They had congregated in the sacred forest of Naimisharanya over 70 years, seeking a solution for the terrible sufferings of the Kali age. After the leader Romaharshana had died untimely, his son Sutta was selected to replace him. Sutta had decided to go in search of answers that might help him execute his momentous responsibility. He had returned from his long journey the previous day with the good tidings that he had indeed discovered a means by which they could save anyone willing to accept their help. After resting the night, Sutta addressed the sages. He told them how he had chanced upon the historic conversation between the world's emperor Parikshit and the illustrious sage Shukadev Goswami. Parikshit had been cursed by the Brahmana boy to die in 7 days. On hearing about the curse, he had immediately left his kingdom and gone to the bank of the river Ganges to fast and pray until death. Their many esteemed sages had come to counsel him, amongst whom was Shukadev, a great devotee of Krishna. Since Parikshit was also an exalted devotee, Shukadev agreed to reveal to him the highest spiritual truths. Sutta assured his companions that the knowledge was so powerful that it could enable one to overcome all material sufferings, including death. Then he began to faithfully repeat all he had heard. By the time Sutta had finished describing the history of Parikshit and Shukadev and how their meeting had come about, the sun had reached its zenith. To escape the midday heat, the sages adjourned until the afternoon. They repaired to the nearby river where, waist deep in the cool waters, they chanted their midday prayers. Some of them performed various yoga asanas, and others foraged for wild fruits. Still others relieved those ascetics who had been tending the sacrificial fires throughout the morning. Scattered here and there in shady spots were clusters of 3 or 4 sages discussing what they had heard during the morning. In the late afternoon, they reconvened. Sutta began to describe the conversation between Parikshit and Shukadev. Arriving at the banks of the Ganges, accompanied by several court brahmanas, Parikshit resolved that he would abstain from food, drink, and even rest until death. He was determined to use every remaining moment of his life remembering Krishna. Whenever his mind wavered to thoughts of his family or kingdom, he resolutely brought it back to Krishna. The gods, aware of Parikshit's decision, continually scattered flowers over the earth and beat celestial drums in his honor. As he sat like a great mystic in meditation on the bank of the Ganges, many sages and their disciples arrived. There on the pretext of a pilgrimage. Great devotees like Vashisht, Parashar, Vishwamitra, Pippalada, Deval, Parshuram, Arstishena, Maitreya, Vyasadev, Narad, and many more others flew in through the airways by their mystic powers. They knew that saints of Parikshit's caliber rarely appeared on earth. Knowing he would soon return to the Krishna's personal abode, Golok, they were eager to see him before his departure. Great ascetics like Gautam, Chyavan, Uttaya, Indra Pramada, Idam Vahu, Medhatithi, Bhardwaj, and Saradwan also arrived. Desiring to assist Parikshit to attain salvation, each of them was accompanied by numerous disciples. Many gods and retired saintly kings also arrived. Amongst the arrivals was Sutta. Parikshit greeted the sages by bowing his head to the ground before them. He thanked them for coming and praised their magnanimity. When they were seated, Parikshit asked, "Trustworthy Brahmanas, please tell me what I should do now. Indeed, tell me of the highest duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically of those about to die." Narad strung a gentle melody on his veena. "My dear king, simply relish singing Krishna's holy names." "Narad, let us be a little more philosophical at this critical moment," chided Gautam. "It behooves us to answer this important question thoughtfully with reason and evidence." Okay, I'm just going to look at the Appendix 1. So it's written in the appendix that according to Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, text 9 to 10, Gautam and Vyasadeva, the founders of two of the philosophical systems, were present when Shukadev spoke to Parikshit. However, there is no mention of Jaimini, Kanada, Kapila, and Patanjali, who propounded the other four philosophies. Therefore, in the prologue, we have represented their points of view through other sages present. The Shad Darshanas, the 6 Vedic philosophical perspectives, are as follows. The first is the Nyaya, or the logic, taught by Gautam, who was present in the assembly. So I think we will continue from here tomorrow because it's quite lengthy and that will make the reading very, very long. So I'll take leave of you and wish you all again a very happy Makar Sankranti and Ganga Sagar. Today is the day when Ganges, she merged into the ocean. Thanks for joining. Hare Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.